I'm a very gentle man, even-tempered and good-natured, who you'll never hear complain, who has the milk of human kindness by the quart in every vein. A patient man am I, down to my fingertips, the sort who never could, ever would, let an insulting remark escape his lips.
Hello, I'm Mark Lamarr, and this is Lamarr's Attacks, as you can tell from the title that was just going on. I'll be whinging on about something in a few minutes, but before that, let's see what's been happening in the news this week. 70s bumpkin poetess Pam Ayres is currently collaborating with goth shocker Marilyn Manson. It's reportedly a dark, brooding, psychedelic concept album based on her earlier masterpiece, I Wish I'd Looked After Me Teeth. In a shocking change of heart, animal rights activist Carla Lane went on a machine gun rampage at Battersea Dogs Home. I don't know what I was thinking, she said. I'd rather not talk about it. It's not like me. I think I had some cheese before I went to sleep last night. Here's a picture of a nun playing a banjo. What other show gives you that? Let's have a look at what's hot and what's not this summer. What's hot? Heat. What's not? Cold. And let's just put an end to these things. In an interview with Hello magazine, Hugh Hefner took photographers around the magnificent 38-bedroom Playboy mansion. He said, "You see this? Wanking paid for this." You know the phrase, if I had £1 for every time someone fiddled about with themselves? Well, I have. Viewer Claire, I don't know why she did this actually, but viewer Claire Driscoll, because he's not this sort of shy, she sent us a picture of a strange apple she bought in a market in Devizes. It's long, bendy and yellow. More like a banana. What do other viewers think? Nicolas Cage didn't visit Britain this week. Who does he think he is? Our little country's not good enough for him. Stick your Oscar up your arse, Yankee boy. What's the matter with you? You come here, it's the best place in the world. And being English is being the best in the world. English bobbies, best in the world. If you don't count the fourth highest crime rate in Europe, if you don't count that, best in the world. English dwarfs, shortest in the world. You ever see a Spanish dwarf? Spanish dwarf's like a lanky child. English dwarf, probably English dwarfs see them, we can't even see them. English society is the best in Europe. If you ignore the highest rate of teenage pregnancy, the second highest prison population, the fourth worst crime rate, it's the best in Europe. But none of those things bother us because we're English. And the best thing about being English is that we know, however bad it gets, at least we're not French. Because one thing we know indisputably about the French stink. Sure you've all heard that, the French stink. No doubt about that whatsoever. Like a whole nation one day just thought, oh, I can't be bothered. Like they're all doing it just to get their own back on Britain. They all stand at Calais with their arms up, hoping for a strong wind just to wind us up. You've heard of Chanel number 5, this is channel number 2. I think people are mistaking the French with Pepe Le Pew. Now, Pepe Le Pew was French and he did stink, but that's because he's a skunk, not because he's French. And anyway, that wasn't the worst thing about him. He was a rapist. And he didn't even rape his own species, he raped unlucky cats. I still can't work out what Warner Brothers were trying to sell me in that one. I'm 8 years old and this is a role model. But you can't think all French people are like Pepe Le Pew, that all French men see a cat with a white stripe down its back, think it's a skunk and try and shag it. There's no time for that. Wish there was. All right, the French don't stink, fair enough. But have you ever been in their toilets? Oh, they're horrible. Because you know, the English toilets, they're a real palace of delights, aren't they? Oh, I love an English toilet. That's what I do on my day off. I'll ring up all my mates and I'll meet them down the bogs, probably bring a little picnic hamper. But for some reason, we have these similar stereotypes about every single European country. What's the one thing we know about the Germans? The Germans have no sense of humour. No doubt about that. No one in Germany has ever laughed. They're much more into conquering other nations and precision engineering. That's what they like. They don't like jokes. Belgians, boring, fact. Swiss, stupid. Well, why is that? What have you got to back that up? Wow, look at the shape of the country. Who'd live there? I'll tell you who's worse. Bloody Portuguese. They won't give you a chance. Why? What happened? I'll tell you what happened. I went into a hospital once in Portugal and I said, can I have a go at being a doctor? Wouldn't even let me, bastards. Bloody Brussels, you're not even allowed to call a sausage anymore. Yes, you are. Don't be stupid. I haven't heard of one single person being done for calling a sausage. And they're plainclothes policemen in every cafe in Britain, looking out for people going, what did you just call that? What did you just call it? I'm sorry, officer, I'm sorry. Can I have a couple of tubes of eyeball, anus and pig lips with chips, please? That's what I meant to say. Personally, I haven't got the time or the energy to hate everyone in France. There are enough people in this country I can't stand. I don't want to dissipate my energy. And the big issue with you, if you're going to laugh, please, mate. Do it when the jokes come along. The big issue with Europe isn't about whether you can call a Cornish pasty or whether it has to be a meat and pastry mound. It's the undemocratic representation in the European Parliament. But we never hear about that. When we get our news about Europe, we always get it from the man on the street. Sadly, me and you, idiots. So what it ends up is we get Bill on the burger van telling us what he thinks about Europe. Bill, tell us what's going to happen when we all become European. Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen when we become European. I'll give you a typical day in English life when we're part of Europe. For a start, you have to get up an hour early. Because you know, everyone in Europe gets up an hour before us, you know, to try and sneak up on us. So that's going to happen. So already, before we start, I've lost an hour of sleep. I'm knackered. And I can't have a nice wake-up. I can't have an alarm clock next to the bed and reach over and that. No, band. I have to have yodelers outside my window. And umpire bands and blokes slapping their legs and whatever. So I think to myself, I tell you what, I've had a terrible wake-up. I'll have a nice English breakfast. Not allowed, banned. When we're in Europe, we're going to have to eat yoghurt and terra masalata and Battenberg, all mixed up in a bucket. So I have my breakfast, get ready for work, put my clogs on. If I'm driving, and I better hope I'm driving, because otherwise I've got to ski. I've got to ski down the high street, and that doesn't mix well with the Battenberg and the terra masalata, I'm telling you that. So I'm going down the high street on my way to Le Jardin du Palais de Petit Filou, Quick Fit. They've changed the name. I don't know why. Bloody Eurocrats. And the worst thing about working with the Europeans is you can't have a laugh with them. They've got no sense of humour. I'm working in Quick Fit. Say a girl comes in with really big knockers, they don't find that funny. What's the matter with them? They don't find breasts funny. If I went, hey, look at them, you're not getting an end to the pound, they'd just stare at me. They'd rather watch a silent film about a bloke on a bike. So you'd have a really boring morning. Then you think, lunchtime, it's like I'd have some nice English dinner. Not allowed, banned. You've got to eat shrews and voles and grass and drink a big bucket full of blood. And you can have a cup of tea if you want, but you're not allowed sugar in it. You've got to have 2 cloves of garlic and then you stir it with a tulip. And then you get the one good thing about Europe. After dinner, you have a nice nap. You have a nice couple of hours of siesta. But then you're rudely awoken by your boss, and you better hope that your boss isn't Greek, because you know what their hobby is? You'll be sodomised awake. That's what all Greek men do. That's what they do at all times. And of course, sodomy, that's not mixing well with the shrews and the Battenberg and the terra masalata and the skiing. So you have a dreadful afternoon and you think, right, I'll make my way home now. You're not allowed to go home. Not in Europe, you're not allowed. You have to go and sit in an enormous square and appreciate art with strangers. And then you have to play chess with old men till the sun goes down. And then you get in, the telly's terrible. No vet programmes, they couldn't give a shit. No holiday programmes, they're already abroad. And you've missed the news at 9 because they put it on at 8, the bastards. Now, as far as I can tell, these aren't the differences between the English and the Europeans. I've met Europeans, they seem perfectly pleasant. The one difference is, on a hot day, we might take our jumper off and we'll tie it around our waist, whereas in Europe, they tend to drape it over their shoulders. That seems to be the big threat to our life. And I think it's time that I spoke to someone about it. My first guest is the Eurosceptic editor of The Spectator, who once said, "Ich bin ein Frankfurter." And who am I to argue? It's Boris Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. I find it very strange how Eurosceptical you are, because you come from a very, very, as European a background as any man could have.
Well, why do you say I'm Eurosceptical? I mean, I was listening with great interest to your speech just now.
Good.
Which I thought was very good. Very funny. But I thought you were a little bit hard on Europe and on Europeans, because I think I'm a pro-European.
When was I hard on them?
Well, you had that thing about how the French smell.
No, sarcasm, basic comedy tool. I was saying, we know one thing about the French did, and I said, but of course they don't. That's a stupid lie.
I'm sorry, I must have... my intention...
Did someone put some bubble wrap in front of you and you lost interest? I find so much that's written about Europe isn't about what the process of election of the Parliament is and the commissions. It's all about the French think, the Germans have no sense of humour. Yes. And it's, you know, it's a vicious excuse for racism a lot of the time.
I'm not a Europhobe. I don't think everything that comes from the continent of Europe is bad and worrying and frightening. I'm very much in favour of, you know, cappuccino and spaghetti al vongole and getting out, what with this high pound now, there's all sorts of things you can go over and buy in Europe. And indeed, under the wonderful single market programme, it's possible for us to go and have careers in Europe, should we lose our jobs in England. And
well, your glass really is half empty, isn't it? When, in your fatalistic look on life, you're going to be put out of work, at least you can go there and they won't know who you are.
Well, I mean, I have worked in Europe for many years. I mean, we are in Europe now, of course. Trick question. Ha-ha.
No, trick answer.
This is Europe.
I tell you what, it's been so long since I've heard someone go, ha-ha. You were born in Brussels, weren't you?
No, well, close. I was born in New York, but... same idea, foreign.
No, I'm not saying it. I thought you were born in Brussels. I was told you were born in Brussels.
Well, well, for the sake of argument, I could be born. If you'd rather I was born in Brussels.
Well, that would help me now.
Let's assume I was.
You were brought up in Brussels?
I spent, quite a lot of my childhood there, yeah.
Okay.
And I love it. I mean, it's a fantastic place. Moule frite, all the rest of it. Nothing wrong with that at all. I think the problem with Europe is that it's often confused with the doings and workings of the European institutions, which are becoming steadily less democratic. That's the problem.
Yeah, of course, and that's what must be discussed. And what I was saying is that isn't what people talk about in the papers. People, all we ever get is bloody bastards won't eat our bloody beef.
Well, they didn't want to eat our beef.
But can
that
you
was
not,
very wrong of them.
Can you not see the reason why they might not want to?
There's nothing. It's absolutely. I don't think there's anything wrong with British beef. And
did you miss out?
More chance of being blinded by a champagne cork or being decapitated by a frisbee than contracting Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease from eating. And if you look at the statistics, you've got more chance of dying by being locked in a disused fridge than contracting anything from eating British beef.
You've so often been caught out in the past for not checking up on what you're talking about. I'm surprised. Now, these long string of examples. You've got more chance of being decapitated by a frisbee. That is not true.
Mark, of course, the consumers have a perfect right not to eat it if they don't want to. But I don't see why, given that scientists in this country think it's safe, they shouldn't be given the choice.
But the statistic, was it something like 46 other countries wouldn't eat British beef either? But it automatically always comes across as bloody French. And in fact, what did you call them, garlic guzzlers or something, which wasn't probably the sort of journalism you're particularly proud of, and you often write stuff that I find very funny.
When I said garlic guzzlers, I was, they eat our children's ponies, but they won't eat our beef, kind of thing. What I was saying there was really, I was using an ironical type of a comedic device, such as you perhaps familiar.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, fair enough. I'll accept that as an answer if it's all I'm going to get. I think one thing that a lot of people don't understand, and I suspect this goes for everyone, is exactly what is the influence of the European Parliament and the European Commission on the way we live our lives.
Right. Well, that's the problem. The problem is that it is very far-reaching. I remember once there was a plan to abolish the prawn cocktail flavour crisp, because this is something which was only eaten in Britain, and the Eurocrats decided that there was an additive in the prawn cocktail flavour crisp which made it particularly delicious to children, which, if they ate several kilos of it, would make them hyperactive. And so they tried to ban prawn cocktail flavour crisp. And there was one quite good story once about they wanted snails were to be reclassified as fish under the
Is this true?
Yes,
is this a dream?
No, this is true, because they would meet. This is an exclusive story I had. They would then fall under the common fisheries policy, and the French were very keen that Or was it the other way around? Maybe maybe they weren't. Anyway, there was something to do with that.
I'd never trust you as a witness in a trial. Well, there was a bloke, he might have been a bloke, he might have been a helicopter, I have no idea what was going on.
I did expose the Euro condom, that was true.
Oh, what happened with this?
Yes, there was a plan to harmonise the dimensions of the condom. That was one euro. There you go, I mean,
well,
so perfectly sensible idea, probably, well, why not? Anyway, the key thing is that these things are really trivial pinpricks. The important thing is that...
You prepared that?
The wider implications of a lot of this, like the...
You lot calm down now. You're encouraging him, he'll finish on a song.
Well, what we want, you know, to focus on the serious...
Yeah, of course.
Serious erosions of democratic accountability. The other question is, what is Europe? I mean, what is it? Is it a geographical thing?
Well, it mainly is, of course it is.
But in which case, how big is it, and where does it end? Once you start defining it, you realise it's a very arbitrary thing, and you're leaving out people who have just as much claim to be European as anybody else. And from a liberal, with a small l, point of view, there is a strong objection to building a federal European Union that excludes people who are not white Christians. Why can't they have their ticket to this great jamboree?
Yeah, I suspect a lot of people who aren't white pseudo-Christians wouldn't necessarily feel it's a jamboree and wouldn't necessarily want to belong. I mean, maybe that's the answer.
Well, tell that to the Turks.
Well, I'm a bit busy now, but... why don't you? You go...
I'll pass on your message to the Turks.
Boris, if you could, you know, you go over there with your tales of your prawn cocktail-flavoured condoms. And you,
do you want me to go?
And you spread the good word. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, normally they end a little bit more efficient. I do the Boris Johnson, thank you very much. But when you said, do you want me to go, I sort of felt it wouldn't be a bad idea, would it? Boris Johnson,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming on. Boris Johnson, ladies and gentlemen, what a treat. Now, I don't want anyone to think that it's because I don't hate Europeans that I don't like England. I love England. I was born here, I choose to stay here, I'll die here. And there are many, many fantastic things about England that are uniquely English that I adore. Fish and chips. Not just the fish and chips, but those beautiful leggy English sex bombs who serve them up. Every time I gaze through a heated chrome cabinet across a display of beef burgers in batter, fish cakes and Jamaica patties, I lose my heart. But then I am turned on by cold sores. Other things I love about Britain, family fortunes. Name 5 things you'd find in a kitchen. Spotnik. Chaz, not Dave. As far as I'm concerned, he's always held him back. Car boot sales, the perfect place to take a lady. Anything you want, love, it's on me. Nothing new, though. English mums, you've tried the rest, now try the best. It's my mum. Is it up? Yeah, look it up. Never seen her head quite that big since birth. Mine, obviously. Tell you what else I love about Britain. It's some of the little things. Gypsy creams. The romance of the open road, married to the taste of a biscuit. Paul Daniels for getting magic off the telly. English beef. Now considered safe in some parts of Ghana. And, of course, the patron saint of England, St George. Although, actually, I've got a number of problems with St George, of a symbol of what's great about England. First of all, I don't know if you know this, he doesn't just represent us. He's also the patron saint of Canada, Moscow, Greece, Palestine and Germany. And that's just the countries. He's also patron saint of archers, farmers, soldiers and, very importantly, butchers. He's also, and you won't believe, you'll think I'm joking, he's the saint of the plague, skin rashes, herpes and syphilis. So I think we've established he's a very overworked saint. But most importantly, St George is best known for killing a dragon. Now, this dragon wasn't an English dragon. This was no threat to us. It was in Libya. And more importantly, no such thing as dragons, is there? Oh, you killed a dragon. So what? I could kill 20 in me sleep. Just killed one just now. Imagine that. So the symbol of our country is a lying Libyan who represents hope over syphilis. What sort of image is that for the rest of the world? He's basically Del Boy in armour. We need a new symbol for Britain, and I think I've got just the fella. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet. But he's a man who symbolises good over evil, a man who symbolises the Union Jack, a man who didn't only kill one dragon, he also beat Kendo Nagasaki, seen here with an ostentatious friend, Adrian Street, and Giant Haystacks. The man I refer to, of course, is this man, Big Daddy. I think you can take it off now, I've said who he is. There you go. And if you think I'm being facetious, look at the facts. He's perfect for the job. For a start, in real life, he was a butcher. Not a saint to butchers, a real butcher. He put his arse on the line. He used to wear a top hat, a symbol of Britain. But he wore a spangly top hat, a symbol of individuality and slight lunacy. He wore a Union Jack leotard. Never mind fighting a fearsome dragon with a lance. How many men are brave enough to walk into battle in a leotard and a spangly top hat? Obviously, he couldn't be expected to fulfil all the duties that St George did, but if you're suffering from herpes or syphilis or skin rashes, when you're praying to your saint, shouting out, St George! That ain't going to be nearly as satisfying as shouting out, Big Daddy. So anyway, with a new symbol of Britain, what we're going to need is a new flag, and again, Big Daddy comes to the rescue. So the new flag should be gold, spangly, of course. Imagine that flying up at the Olympics. Imagine that. Whether we win or not, we're the dandiest nation around. Forget your stars and stripes. This is gold. We've already got the Spandau Ballet song for it. The symbol in the middle of the flag should somehow represent the great county of Yorkshire, home of Shirley Crabtree. So what we put in there, we put in the Yorkshire Terrier. We bung on top of that Big Daddy's face. And in case you're wondering, this bit here, the bit, it's not what you're thinking, that's Yorkshire pudding. But it's a nice steamy one. And finally, we have the motto, and this says, easy, 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 but in Latin. Time me to talk to someone else now. My second guest spent a biblical 40 days and 40 nights travelling around England this year for his excellent White Tribe series, trying to find out exactly what we are as a nation. And you know what? It turned out we're all right. It's Darcus Howe, ladies and gentlemen. I had just about the same time as you made White Tribe and did your 40 days and 40 nights. I did exactly the same thing. I was doing a tour, but I travelled around England for 40 days and 40 nights and really fell in love with the place. Forgot just how much I adore it. What did you find when you were travelling around?
I have been here 40 years, and we tend to spend a lot of time in Brixton and Notting Hill and stuff. And I travelled this country and realized, yeah, this is my home. But I'm not English, because if I say I'm English, somebody say, no, you're not. So I think I'm an Englander. I speak English. My father was an Anglican vicar. I play cricket. I was at Lord's. England were winning. It was temperate. And I was in Channel 4's box, and I had a lovely beef. I couldn't tell you whether it was French or English. And I enjoyed it.
One thing I know about you, you're not a beef racist. I've always said that about you.
No, if you blindfold me, I don't know what is British beef. It only becomes British if they poison it and can't sell it.
Did you find that when you came here, because a lot of people who were part of the Commonwealth and came here at whatever point, found that it took a long time for them to feel themselves that they were English?
That is true. I'll tell you some of the difficulties. I came here at 17, and there weren't many young Caribbean girls, you see. So boys like girls, don't they? That's why I was looking for 17.
Is that why you came?
Well, no. Once I got here...
If you couldn't pull in Trinidad and you came here...
Well, I was a serious puller, or pullist. I was good at it.
Pulley, I think is the word.
And there are times and places, and I have never known a place that did such awful things in slavery and colonialism, and at the end of it say, I don't want to be that anymore. I think the present spirit of this country is not associated with colonial pomposity and imperial cruelty. If you trace your antecedents, all of England is a place of refuge from the tortuous development of Europe. Here is a place of refuge. This is where, if you go to Newcastle, it's Scandinavian. And we built what we think is a kind of nice little place. But we must go back to Europe now and say we are here now.
That's it. I thought you were going to say, let's go and kick some ass.
No,
After all
I'm
those years. No,
I'm going to say we are here now.
The wonderful thing about you, and I'm neither the pro nor sceptical, I'm just sort of pragmatic about it, is that I suspect all our cultural influences have already happened. You know, whatever's going to happen now, we're not going to be introduced to a new kind of pasta.
Absolutely. When I toured England...
That wasn't a metaphor. I meant we're not going to get introduced to a new kind of pasta.
I don't need pasta. I like rice and peas. I toured...
You can take the boy out of Trinidad.
Can't take Trinidad out of the boy. The thing is, I have a great degree of affection for this place. And once you begin with affection, then you could see flaws reasonably. And I'm going to tell you the flaws I see. Terry Venables and the setting you up that England is going to win Euro 2000. And I thought, oh, hell. Because everybody says we ought to win because we're English. And I find that quite unreasonable.
Oh, I'm sure every nation does that.
No, not me. I don't have it. You see, I look at the West Indies cricket side and says ragtag and bobtail.
I don't know who's in the team at the moment, so I'm not sure if that was a joke.
But I have such an affection for this place that I am not going to be moved by nationalism and a flag and sentiment.
What about the new flag, the one with Big Daddy?
That's why I like England, because you can do all of that and not go in jail.
Well, see,
yeah, my flag. I will have.
I didn't think of it as
I'll have
desecration.
two sunny side up. Bacon, baked beans.
Now, hold on. You
Toast.
mixed up the word flag with breakfast.
Cup of tea.
I've seen this happen a million times.
And slap it on a flag. And I think that England is such a sweet place that you don't have to wave no flags.
Of course, you know, times are changing. I think a lot of people aren't ready for the inevitability of our sort of absorption into European culture. What do you think? What are the things that you love about it? And I've just done a list of some of the things I enjoy. Mums, fish and chips, whatever.
I think I have to say what Europe needs. It needs a country like France who's got Martinique and Guadeloupe as colonies and treating them like lost souls, to be able to understand, and I'm not a supporter of the Labour Party, I don't vote, that we have reached a stage where government ministers are saying, here are some black people living in this country and everything is going to be all right. I think we need to teach them that, and they have to teach us how to play football. The French will have to teach us how to play football.
Oh, look at them bristling.
Oh.
That one bloke down the front one. I don't think so. But you know what? They won. You still cling to that notion, don't you? No, we're English, best in the world at football. Go on, Froggy, stick it up your arse. But you know what? They've got a big cup, and our team's got nothing to drink from. Imagine that. They go, oh, nothing there. They're just in a back alley drinking cider out of a bottle. Anyway, Darcus, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Explaining what's going on in Europe. So, what have we learned about our attitudes towards Europe? Well, despite our differences, fundamentally we're all the same. In England, we call them shoes. In France, chaussures. In Spain, zapatos. In Germany, the shoe. But I think that's right, I'm not quite sure. But you know what I care about? As long as they're a device that keeps dog shit off my socks, you can call them what you want. Curly whirlies, Wursten, Bursten, or hibbity hoppities, I don't care. Vive la différence, but not in price. Good night.